mark it this way, halfway. If you mark it this way, this is the only type of print you're going to be able to get. If you mark it on a diagonal, you'll be able to do this, or this, or pattern number 3. And there's the examples of the diamond pattern, the arrow pattern, and pattern number 1. He's my assistant. What he did is to do when we first come into the class is he is making sure that there's newspaper on the table and that the newspaper is clean. If the previous class leaves newspaper, that's fine, but if there's dirty newspaper, there's ink on it, he wants to leave that on the table and cover it with more paper. I say leave it on the table because the more layers you have on the table, the more padding it gives to print, and it's easier than having a hard surface. More layers create a softer surface, easier to push into and print. So he'll check, or your partner will check the table to make sure that there's newspaper on the table, and if it's dirty, as I said, he'll place more newspaper on top of it. He will also get a second piece of newspaper so that we can pull the print, because your proof print is going to just be on newspaper. After the proof is done and we're ready to pull the final print, the proof is approved, looks good, he'll go to the desk and get the final white paper for the 4-pull print that you have to turn in. Okay? So while he's setting up the table, you are going to come to one of the inking stations for your first ink. You will have already marked the back of your string print stamp, how you want to do it. The first time you ink it, you're going to be careful to see from what corner divides, where you want to separate the two colors, and decide which color is going to be 1 and which color is going to be number 2. So I had selected red for my number 2. It corresponds with the pattern on the back, and blue for my number 1. So I need to first come to my paint, my ink, and put enough ink on the tray so that I can roll it out. I don't want it really thick because I only want to be able to coat it on the roller so that it will coat the top of my string. If I put too much ink on my string, it's not going to print a nice clean line. So too much is not good. Enough to wet the string. So don't roll it all over the plate. Keep it in one area. When you have a nice application you believe on the roller, roll it onto your stamp. Making sure that you stay on the side, as I said, that you had marked. I selected red for number 2. Make sure you do not cross over the center portion because you do not, as I have previously told you, you do not want to mix the colors in the middle. If you do, if I roll over onto the blue, it's going to contaminate the roller, and the next person is going to have muddy colors when they want to use their red, and they're going to be unable to duplicate the lines in the same place. Remember, we are satisfying 2 principles of art. The principle line, the principle repetition, and the principle of variation. The only variation we want is in the direction of our pattern. Okay? Once I've put my one color on, go to the plate with the next color. You may have to wait tomorrow because you will be lining up and taking turns rolling your ink, which is why it's critical to start at the beginning of the hour and use your time well. Roll on your second color. Usually when I'm rolling it, I rolled it on once, I go to the plate and re-ink and roll it on a second time. When I think I have ink everywhere on my stamp, I'm ready to pull my first proof. So my assistant will put my paper on the table. You should have your printing plan on your table for after you print your proof. Right now we'll do the proof. I'm going to drop it on the paper. Why do you think I would want to drop it on the paper?
Because after you move it.
And I do not want to touch the paper underneath, because if you'll notice, I'm already starting to get a little bit of ink on my fingers. And as I print and go back and re-ink time after time after time, I'm liable to get more ink on my fingers, and I don't want any ink on my paper other than where the lines are. So I am not going to touch that paper, so I have to get to right where I want it, above the paper, and drop it. So I went to right above the paper, and I let go so it dropped into place where I wanted it. Now I need to press it. You're going to use the palm of your hand. You're going to go back and forth from corner to corner in one direction, and then you're going to change direction and press it in the other way, trying to transfer the ink from the print to the paper down below. Making sure that you're not moving your cardboard, you're pushing down while you're rubbing back and forth, because I don't want it to move. So now I've gone back and forth in one direction a few times, changing directions. Again, I'm being careful not to touch the paper below. Now I really need my assistant, because I'm going to try to remove it, and it's going to want to pull the paper up while I pull this down. So I need you to get a real tight hold on the paper while I try to grab onto the cardboard on the upper edge and side without touching the paper below. And it really, I had to pull hard. It stuck. Thank you. Now you're going to look at your proof. Your first print is generally not your best print. I can see some very light areas on this corner and right down at this corner. Now I know that which areas, when I look at my stamp, then I need to make sure that I apply extra ink to. So put your stamp right next to your paper, look at it, and make sure when you go to re-ink that you are careful to make sure that you put ink in those areas. So I need to pull another proof because this one is not satisfactory. It's not a beautiful print. So what would I do? If you have a problem, as I did, where the lines were not consistent, what do I need to do? I need to re-ink and pull another proof. I need to have my proof look consistent from end to end, corner to corner, before I print it again. I go back and re-ink. I can pull my second one on the same piece of newspaper. I have room. So again, I'm going to drop it and press it. Same process. Back and forth. The other problem I might have had, other than inking, is maybe I didn't press as well in those areas. So I'm going to make sure it was two corners, that I'm very thorough in my pressing this time. Ready? And we're ready to pull. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Can you see the difference between the second proof and the first?
Yeah.
Which is also why you must pull your proof and make your final print the same day. So now what I need to do is I need to ink it again and print it according to my printing plan. So my student assistant will take that. Once I've pulled a successful proof, my partner is going to go get my good piece of paper, put my name and period number on the back, make sure the tabletop is clean, there's no stray ink on it because I do not want any ink on the back of my paper either, and hold it down, and we're going to pull 4 prints according to your pattern. Any questions? So what would I do now? I would re-ink and pull another proof. When the proof is good, I would re-ink and make my first print. Then I'd re-ink and do my second application, re-ink for the third application, and re-ink for the fourth application. I'm repeating this because you must re-ink every time you print. So now I'll know how I'm going to be using this on my paper. I want to have that down on my table beside me while I'm ready to print. I need to do what?
Need to paint again.
I need to ink up again, correct. Every time you print, you need to re-ink. Now I'm ready to look at my printing plan, look at my paper, and I realize that where my 1-2 is on my plan, I'm going to repeat that, so I need to start right here. It's okay, that's good. I dropped, I'm pressing.
I have a question.
Yes, dear.
Is there like a certain spot where you have to like set it down?
You want to make sure, very good question. You want to make sure there's a little bit of a white edge around the side of the page.
On the bottom?
And I hear my 1 is and my 2 is, where I dropped it, it corresponds to, if this was a square of paper, my 1 and 2, right here. Can you see that? Next time I print it,
How about if you want to make an 8-piece, not a 4-piece?
well, you're not doing that first. That's a good question. We'll get to that when we do the extra print. You want to hold the paper? We'll try it. I didn't go the other direction. I'm sorry. Okay. Oops. I didn't put as much pressure that time. Now, if I needed to ink it and do it again, where would it go? No, well, no, you can't go back to the same spot. It's a good question. I've messed this one up.
Throw it away.
Oh well. Yeah, I'd have to start over. Look, guys, I rushed, trying to rush to get this done, and I didn't ink it as well as I should have, and I didn't press as hard. I knew I only pressed in one direction.
Your fingers on the paint.
Yeah, now it is too. Let's look at this part. I just did 1-2 right here. Now I need to do this one above. Can you see how I need to take it and turn it this way?
Yeah.
See how the 1-2 moves? And then if I go to this one, it has to turn upside down to go there.
You just keep rotating.
It rotates if you're doing this pattern. If you're doing a different pattern, you're going to have to pay attention to the way that you do it there. Any questions? As soon as you're done, the assistant will take your stamp and your printing papers over to the drying rack. You'll wash up and they'll clean up your table. Any questions about printing? Okay. Very good. Thank you.